Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome again. Another video by me. It's a great pleasure to talk to you all. I love it. But this time, I'm not using my mobile phone. I'm going to talk direct into my Apple MacBook Pro. That's it. So got the laptop open in front of me, and I'm going to start talking to you all. One thing, let's be very clear, that the situation is very fluid. And I'm mentioning something called the Third World War, which is very much likely on the anvil at the moment. We can run away from it. And let's not forget that in the last 100 years, Europe has been the epicenter of two world wars. The First World War started in 1914, ended in 1918. And then in 1919 there was the Treaty of Versailles, which sort of put such a lot of humiliation on Germany that the Germans didn't know what to do. And that sowed the seeds of the Second World War. Now the same thing is happening here again. Mr. Joe Biden, he got elected as President of America by a bit of a fluke, I think. That's about all I can think of. He's a man who'd half a century in public life, but he's done nothing in these 50 years. He was 8 years Vice President to Obama, but I hadn't heard of him doing anything significant at that time. So suddenly he's been catapulted as the President of the United States, and I think he's a little out of his depth, He bungled up the issue in Afghanistan very badly. So he wanted to somehow, get out of the ignominy of that mother of all retreats. And then he thought, why not pick on Russia? Russia is a weak country economically. It'll easily succumb to the economic pressures which are going to put on them. So he began to instigate Ukraine. Look, we are going to take you into NATO. You're part of us. You're the frontline force. And he led Mr. Zelensky, who was a very naive politician, up the garden path. And Zelensky thought, well, everything is done. I'm going to be part of NATO, and I'm going to be a big man. The frontier of Europe is now the frontier of Ukraine. Very silly miscalculations. Because he didn't know that Biden was playing for stakes for his own self to raise his own ratings in America. He's not interested in Ukraine. He didn't bother about Ukraine at all. As per my latest reports which are coming in, the rankings of Biden are even below that of Donald Trump at the moment. So obviously he's got to do something spectacular. Tell the Americans, look, I'm doing something here. But he bungled badly. Because he didn't expect the Russians to really attack. I think that is my way of looking at it. He did not think so. He thought, threats and bluster will do the work. But he was dealing with a different type of a man. Vladimir Putin is one man. He's not an ordinary person, He's been coming up the hard way from the time when he was in the Soviet Union and part of the KGB. So you can expect him to say, yes sir, 3 bags full. No. He has attacked Russia. He's attacked Ukraine. Now, the progress is tardy, I'll admit it. The Russians could have done better. In a month, they should have frankly overrun at least half of Ukraine. They've done an entry about 20%, 20-25%, very less. But the repercussions are terrible. Joe Biden has been arming the Ukrainians. Now that's the crucial point. And he's going around talking something very silly sometimes. He recently referred to Putin as a war criminal. And then he went to Poland and he said, we should do away with Putin. Send him out or something like that. Now you can't as the head of state make such statements, And that's precisely what Biden has done. He stiffened the Russian resolve by such stupidity. and all sorts of weapons which he is pouring into Ukraine, the Russians are watching very closely. By now, Ukraine would have collapsed, but for the American support of millions of dollars of weapons which they have supplied, like the Stinger missiles, shoulder-fired missiles and all that, and they've been able to inflict some damage on the Russian army. And now, he must be a very naive person, Mr. Biden, to think that Russia is going to say, okay, well, you can continue, we won't do anything, The situation is very dangerous. And this Ukraine campaign could sow the seeds of the Third World War. It's a very terrible situation. I don't know whether people like Biden really realize what they're up to. He is putting the entire Western civilization at risk. And the small countries of Europe, I really feel a lot of sympathy for them. Belgium, Luxembourg, Holland, Lithuania, and Latvia, all sorts of things, Bulgaria. I mean, these very small countries, it's relying, catching the coattails of Uncle Sam and saying, help us, we are sure you're going to help us. Now, the way he's acted in Ukraine, he hasn't put any American troops on the ground, he hasn't enforced a no-fly zone, he's done nothing. How do you expect him to go and defend Latvia or something like that if the Russians invade tomorrow? You think you're going to put American troops there? Or you're going to just put American troops in Romania or something? You're going to do nothing. You're going to give them weapons, you give them everything. But American men to fight, he will not give. And even NATO is not united. France is not part of NATO, let's remember that. Macron appears to be the only sane man in this entire get-up. The result can be very disastrous. Because the Russians have made it very plain that if need be, we will use nuclear weapons. And they have been carrying out the nuclear drills all over, We can't help it. Nuclear drills are a terrible situation. And the small countries of Europe, led by that other clown, Boris Johnson, they're in a very terrible situation. I remember in 1961, when Nikita Khrushchev was the first secretary of the Soviet Communist Party, he had said, what did he say? He said, England will not survive 6 thermonuclear hydrogen bombs. It ceased to exist on the world map. Now, if England is going to finish on the world map, what about small countries like Belgium and all, they just require a bomb or two and that's the end of it. So, Biden has done something which is very, very silly. Silly is not the word. I think it's something much worse. He's got entire Europe entangled into a possible battle with Russia, and that should have been avoided. Tomorrow the Russians get a little more desperate and use a nuclear device in Ukraine. What's going to happen next? I was reading the other day, and somebody from England had said, we got 4 nuclear submarines under sea in the water. One is kept hidden, and when the war breaks out, those 4 submarines, including the hidden one, will fire the missiles. Fair enough, good idea, good thinking. But what those missiles are going to achieve when England ceases to exist? 6 thermonuclear bombs on London and Birmingham, and that's all over. What these submarines are going to do? Where are they going to go back? So this is a point which you must remember, and the man responsible for all this is only one, Joe Biden. He could have avoided all this. All the Russians had asked for was, Ukraine will not be a member of NATO, Ukraine will be neutral, Ukraine will be denuclearized, there will be no neo-Nazism in Ukraine, and Ukraine will not be a frontier against Russia. Well, what's wrong with it? Now, NATO, as we all know, is actually an obsolete organization, and Donald Trump had recognized it. It was formed in 1949, when Truman was the president, against Russia, then the old USSR. But after the collapse of the Soviet Union, there is no reason the attack for this organization to continue. And after all, Russia had asked for a membership of NATO when Boris Yeltsin was the president. But good friend, Bill Clinton said no, because the American think tank have already decided that Russia has got to be the enemy. And this is the time when Joe Biden picked up that old theory and he thought he would increase his brownie points, He thought he would be able to put Russia in its place for the next 100 years. And he thought sanctions are going to do the trick. But sanctions? What sanctions? Half the world of humanity, India and China, which count for 3 million people, they're not going in for any sanctions. India has increased its import from Russia of coal by double. 3 billion barrels of oil India is importing from Russia at a discounted price, and they've done away with the dollar. They're trading in rupee and ruble. So it's a very sad thing that America is led by a man who's so short-sighted. He couldn't look into the future. I understand he's not a crystal gazer or a seer or a great saint or something that will look into the future. What he should have done was gone through the entire thing, studied it. When we were doing staff college, we looked at a problem and looked at all the courses of action and then decided the best course of action. That's what Biden should have done. And he's got a lot of military generals hanging around and they're talking a lot of crap also. I read one American general, I don't want to name him, he said Russia has been defeated. Now how do you call what is defeated? What is defeated? The Americans in fact have been defeated in every battle. I can't recollect the Americans having won anything in the last, God forbid, 75 years. They spend billions and billions of dollars bombing North Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, and now in Iraq they are persona non grata. And wherever they go and roger up that country, Look at what they did in Libya, removed Gaddafi, and Libya is a bloody mess now. Syria, you just look at it, what have they done? They were propping up the Shah of Iran, with big bloody props, and he had to run away from Iran, with his bloody life and his wife and son and all that, and God knows where he is. I really don't even know now. I think he's no more, but his family is just hiding around here and there. Now, what's all this? Joe Biden lacked the sense of the moment. And that is the crucial point which I want to make. America is now headed into serious waters. And it will require a statesman-like effort from Joe Biden to pull America out of this morass. He's going to do it? I don't think so. He's not going to do anything. Because he doesn't have the capability. He's got no horizon. He can just go around, meet somebody in Poland, make stupid remarks like remove Putin and Putin is a war criminal, something, he can talk something else, If there are war criminals, then the Americans are the biggest war criminals in the world. I do remember the judgment of the Tokyo Tribunal, the dissenting judgment I'm talking about by Justice Vinod Chand Paul, and he had said, along with the Japanese leaders here, the American generals should be sitting as accused war criminals for having bombed 200,000 innocent Japanese dead. Well, don't talk of these things, we want to talk only about Putin, That sort of a thing is continuing. And we have so many, expatriates from Ukraine who have gone to America, and they're talking also all nonsense. I know one person who was terribly perturbed. He said, what we should do is have a no-fly zone over Ukraine, and Putin is a criminal, he's a murderer, no end to it. We call any number of names. But the crux of the issue is what happens once the fuse is lit. What's going to do? Europe will be destroyed, and that will be the end of civilization. See, all said and done, Europe has been one of the cradles of world civilizations after India and China, and of course Mesopotamia. Right from the Roman times, we have looked to Europe for leadership and things like that. But unfortunately, what's happening now is that Europe is on the brink of destruction, and that's a very terrible situation which I must mention here. I'm perturbed. I have friends in America, my relations in America, who want all this crap going on. I wonder if there's any method by means of which Joe Biden can be removed. I don't think that's possible, and this man's got another 2 years. And it's very ominous now, and I sincerely hope that sense prevails over the Americans and they withdraw their support from Ukraine, accept Ukraine as a part of the Russian sphere of influence. And there's no question of expanding NATO eastwards. Why Poland should be a member of NATO? Why the small country like Lithuania and all should be members of NATO? And I can tell you, the Americans don't have the gumption, the courage, the ability to defend those countries. Well, I sincerely hope World War III doesn't take place. I am not a warmonger, I don't want war. But as a historian, I have got to state the truth. And the truth is, the world is on the edge of a nuclear war thanks to a moron. Moron is not a bad word, it means someone who's got no sense. And that moron is Joe Biden. I hope we can come to an end now. I say goodbye, folks. If you like my video, watch it, like it, share it, and good luck. Jai Hind.